Welcome to Market Buzz. I'm Greg Schnell, the Canadian technician and host of the Market Buzz. Each show, we do a deep dive into different industries using weekly charts to see what is happening on a longer timeline. Please follow me on Twitter at Schnell Investor, and you can also find my blogs on ospreystrategic.org as well as StockCharts.com. So this week I want to talk about crypto, not just a coin. And there's a few reasons that I say that. It's become more of a risk-on, risk-off indicator. And lately, as the market's been finding a bottom, crypto's just been going sideways. So it hasn't been dropping in line with it. So I do want to roll through the charts, just take something that I don't usually cover, look at it specifically from a technical view, the proof of work and proof of stake and all that kind of stuff from crypto. It's literally outside how I view the markets. I view the markets through charts, so there can be a whole bunch going on in the background. The recent Ethereum moves, all that, I don't have any knowledge of the inside, so I'm specifically working on the charts here today. So we have a market that's starting to rally off the lows. I'm going to cover that off, and then I'm going to jump into the crypto and why it's worth watching here. I've been talking about this point on the charts for a long time to my regular clients. And if you're interested in crypto at all, I think you'll enjoy the presentation. So if you're wondering about what we're doing over at Osprey Strategic, I did a presentation today on how we used the market information that we have to try and find the market low back on October 13th and shared that with clients today. So if you're interested in that at all, feel free to head over to Osprey Strategic and we'll be able to get you a copy of that from over there. You can send me an email at info@ospreystrategic.org, or you can just subscribe for $7 and go in and check out all of the client work we had done, the newsletters and videos leading up to this low, just so you don't believe it was just a fluke. We kind of were building on it for 3 weeks as it came into fruition. And then if there's the other part of the things that we offer at Osprey Strategic are all available for you to see there. And if you're interested, I'd appreciate if you head on over. Okay, let's jump into the charts. What I specifically want to talk about, first of all, the market's been on a nice rally, so let's click on that and get in and look. So this October 13th low, literally this was the CPI print the morning of, and off we went to the races. It's been an unbelievable move higher, and I know Microsoft and Google both came out with negative response to earnings after hours. So we'll see how we fare on that. Obviously, Microsoft is going to weigh on all of the indexes. But the big thing I want to focus on is that this is not just a tech rally. This is a rally pretty much across the board. So this is the situation for the S&P 500, and this is for the QQQ, the NASDAQ 100. What you can see is our momentum indicators moving above zero on the 60-minute chart. And on the daily chart, where did we magically get to? Right up to the 50-day moving average. Now, if we stop and reverse here, who'd be surprised that we need to pull back down to 370 perhaps to get a little bit of basing going? And then this is, you can see our 20-day is starting to turn up. So if that's going to start to run, that would be nice. What we don't want to see is kind of what happened back in June, where we ran up and then couldn't go anywhere for a week and then literally fell out of the sky and came down very, very hard into the June low. That's not really how the market's shaping up for me with the change in the Treasury. Dollar, well, let's just use TLT. So this is bond buyers, and then I want to use UUP for the US dollar. And what we're starting to see here, you can see that the TLT, the buyers have been really out of sorts, just been going straight down. And on Tuesday, we finally got a bounce out of there, and a big gap lower, leaving this island. Now, it's not uncommon for us to kind of make an island low. The real question is, how much can we continue to have the yields move up? I think the bigger issue is that most people kind of know how far the Fed's going to go, And if the market's going to, if the Fed is going to pause there after the December increases, then perhaps we have enough information. And the US dollar is down near 2-week lows, and it wouldn't take much to get to a 1-month low. So here we see here the uptrend in the US dollar looks like it's breaking to me. That would be a nice change. And on the TLT, so this is 10-year bonds, what you can see is we've, since the beginning of August, really, it's been an unbelievable run lower. And that's been where the stock market had problems right from the middle of August, let's say, when it broke below its 50-day moving average, and then down it went. And here we have the US dollar, and literally as it broke back above the 20-day moving average in the middle of August there, it's pretty much stayed above that the whole way. This is our first trip back to the 50, and just even if it came back to the 200-day, that would be a huge trip down and probably give us a little bit more room for all these markets to rally. So I don't know, I think that's quite a big expectation to get the bond market to rally all the way up to the 200. Obviously it's possible, but not that likely. Here we have the weekly view of the TLT, and just a relentless red paint here for 9 or 10 weeks on the TLT. So everybody's been selling the bonds and the yields have been going higher. And then on the US dollar, pretty much straight up. And so now we're just watching. We haven't had a red candle here since February. So it's been just amazing. And now we've got a line that we can draw under this PPO. And if that starts to break down, that would be something that would finally tell me there's a change in the air. And on the bonds, we've got a shorter term trend line from the beginning of the year. If that was about to turn and break up, that would tell me that something is changing, and it's just been, literally since the COVID crisis, bonds have been moving meaningfully one way, and again, it seems like we're reaching that statistical, way out of standard deviation range for the bonds, and even if they just came in for a while, and again, like I said, I'm not sure the 40-week or the 200-day moving average is anything realistic as a target rate here, but any move up would help take some of the pressure off the markets right now, and just see if we could start to stabilize in that light. So when we are talking about the markets in general, the one thing that I always want to focus on is, what is the wider price action? And clearly it's been a lot bigger than just a few index names or whatever moving higher. It's been across the board. And I've been watching the metals, and I really want to stay in tune with them. So here we go. We have two miners, and steel really on the left and copper on the right, Rio Tinto and Freeport-McMoRan. And so when you look at these charts, what I like to see here is, we've had a pretty consistent period of lower highs and lower lows, and now what we want to watch for is, can all of a sudden this turn and burn higher? Freeport's had every reason to sell off, and it just keeps pushing up against this ceiling, and I get the feeling it wants to pop all the way up to its 200-day moving average, which would be another 10% from here. However, we have Shanghai charts that are terrible, and typically Shanghai influences the price of copper quite a bit just because of all of the manufacturing they do. So when I look at these two charts for metals and mining, the one continuous demand situation I see is that in order to build out this green renewables that every government seems to be fully on board with, from the Western Economic Forum, it's like, oh yeah, green the world and decarbonize and whatever. And so all of these metal companies are extreme suppliers into that renewable world. And so again, it's not the method of capturing the energy that's renewable. All of that is waste material, but the fact that the sun and the wind are always there, and we can continually try to capture it with different innovation. So the materials used to capture that solar and wind are not renewable. We end up using them in these factories or in these designs for capture. I want to pay particular attention to that because if we're going to start the next green wave out of here, these charts should move up meaningfully. And the one thing I like over here, we're just starting to get some green weeks on the Freeport-McMoRan for the first time, really. April was the one. We had one brief stripe up here in late August, early September, rolled back down, and now we've had two in a row so far. But a breakout of this base, I think, would be a pretty important place to start to recalibrate the metals. And it's one of the areas that I'm extremely focused on as we head forward from here. So now I want to talk about crypto. And crypto finally had a day in the sunshine that we haven't seen in quite a while. So this is the Bitcoin chart. And if we just click on Bitcoin and Ethereum, I want to point out two different things here. So the point is they had a big base building here over the last 3 or 4 weeks in October. And now we're trying to push above them, and we'll see it on the daily chart in a bit. But we also got volume spikes with both of those, and that was pretty important. The other main sentiment I like here is that from the October 13th low, we can see that both Bitcoin and Ethereum made their low on that same day. We had the big rally, and then they haven't done anything since then, but they have made a higher low and now another higher low, and we made a high, a lower high, but now we've broken that downtrend, and we've got a higher high, a higher low, and a higher high. So all of these are adding up to me to be the start of something bigger. Now on the daily charts, I think what we want to see here is this big downward trend line breaking, and I'll show you that on a couple of other charts rather than keep clicking in and out of this one. But the idea here is that since the beginning of the year, or April specifically, we've had a huge move down on these crypto names, but what was interesting me was this sideways consolidation. So as the indexes were making lower lows, these charts failed to get back down to the June low. That one's Ethereum. And over here on the right is Bitcoin. And every time Bitcoin pulled down, it literally bounced back up same day. It just didn't stay down there at all. And so now we have the consolidation of the 20 and the 50-day moving averages pinching very, very tightly together. Same thing, not quite as tight on the Ethereum, but getting close. And the PPO momentum indicator is trying to get back above zero, and that would be just a much more bullish place to be. So I want to stay on top of these charts, because if they start to move meaningfully from the place they're at, I think we have a real opportunity. So I'm going to point out some reasons for my optimism. And again, I'm not going to be buying coin anytime soon, but I might play them through an ETF or through a mining company like HUT, or some of the Ethereum ETFs, that kind of thing in Canada. We have a few of them set up, but Galaxy is another name. Anyway, through all of those, you could start to look at them if you're interested in playing them. And if anything, it's just for the speed of the move. So I think one thing that's interesting, and this just happened on the point and figure charts, is you can see we were in a downtrend. We were trying to get an uptrend going, and we really broke out right here and soared back up. And a breakout above this, call it 20,500 level or whatever, right in this range, a breakout through here is a pretty meaningful reversal. And we'd start to look at upside targets instead of downside targets. And when we look over here on Ethereum, we've clearly broken the downtrend as well. So for both of these on the same day to finally start pushing up and breaking these big downtrend lines, I think there's something going on in the change in the hood, and we want to be aware of that. So let's get into the charts. I've made a chart list called cryptocurrencies, and it's literally, so again, I try to sort my stuff by industry group or type of industry that I can trade against. So I might have an electric vehicle theme, and in that I might have everything from metal miners to electric cars to charging stations to wind and solar companies. Or I might have one for electric vehicles only. In this case, I'm using cryptocurrencies only, and I don't have the Canadian dollar in it and all that kind of stuff. I'm specifically focused on crypto here. So when we do that, we're able to sort the chart any way we want. Now, I haven't done any sorting on these charts because there's, some are $20,000, some are 0.07 cents, whatever. They're all over the map in terms of price. What I want to talk about is the shape of the chart, and hopefully you'll see what I see on these charts. So let's just start rolling through a few of them. I put Bitcoin right at the top. And this is one of the reasons, and I mentioned it in my StockCharts presentation for ChartCon. I was in a bull-bear debate with Dave Landry, and I said, if we start to see the S&P 500 turn higher and then we see Bitcoin start to accelerate, I really want to be on that trade. And the reason I want to be on it is because everything was all set up. So what do I mean by all set up? Well, we had a big downtrend here, and if you look at this downtrend, let's just click on it a little bit here. What you see is this kind of would have broken out middle of April or 1st of April. The actual momentum trend changed around the end of January. And so this doesn't look like much of a rise, but it was a pretty big deal at the time. And then it took off and it ran up for almost 6 months. And that big push was huge. And then we had a real period of consolidation sideways and then another big ramp in crypto. And what happened there was we had that same sort of trend line. This is not quite seated on there, but you get the idea. We had a downtrend in momentum, finally turned and went positive, and we went on a big crypto run. And since then, 2 years later, we've had negative momentum, and we've been leaving the ballpark. So the change that happened this week, just this week, is that crypto is finally starting to break out above that downtrend line for 2 years. And that's a pretty big deal to me. Now, you can see back here it was a big deal, back here it was a big deal, and we had a big uptrend going before that. So we're setting up perhaps to start the next big uptrend, and that's why I'm more interested in crypto this week than I have been for a year and a half. And for those that are interested in crypto, it's at least something to work with. Again, I'm not going to debate what crypto is used for or anything like that. I really don't care. My whole thing is it's a chart that could be ready to break out just based on technicals. And wouldn't this be a normal place for it to do it right as it hits this black line and starts to get ready to surge? So everything is set up on the Bitcoin chart for things to really start to move. And that's one of the reasons that I wanted to bring it up today in the market buzz. When I look at some of these other coins, this is a coin I've never heard of, wrapped Bitcoin to the US dollar. Now there's a downtrend line here and it won't break it anytime soon. That line would come in somewhere out here. But this is, $20,000, $30,000. It's got to move about 25% to get there. But when I look at the momentum trend on this, and again, the name of these have no meaning to me at all. So we're literally just doing technical analysis on price action. This chart is already breaking its downtrend, so it's giving me some hope that there's something there. And when you see the chart has traded in a pretty tight range here, I don't know, we could just probably go like that, call it a channel. We're starting to break above the 10-week moving average, and if that's the case, I think there's a real possibility that this shoots higher. So just literally looking at the chart, again, none of the politics, none of the technology behind any of these cryptos is on my list. Now, this is also starting to break to the upside in the full stochastic, and that's been a pretty nice entry place if you can get on board. This was a false breakout, but the other ones, this one is a pretty steep move up, just doesn't look like much, but the scale is $10,000 there. And then this huge move where we came into this low and then really accelerated out of there and stayed up pretty high on the full stochastic for almost a year. Pretty close. Well, 6 months, I guess. It was a nice run. So that's the kind of thing we're looking for. Again, technically, without getting into all of the politics of crypto, just looking at the chart, what's it trying to tell us? I see the same thing here. I've got a downtrend in momentum that's trying to break. Full stochastic is still negative. This thing's worth $20,000. It's the REN BTC trying to turn up. So As I look through these charts, they're starting to look more favorable. Now here's Ethereum, and I've marked up this chart. You can see the downtrend here that was going on in 2018. It finally broke. This was a move, whatever, $62 to 256, about 400% in 6 months. Pretty heavy move. And again, the big move, obviously, off the 2020 lows up to the 2021 highs, $108 to $4,800. That's the kind of move that all of us, I think, could get invested in. And then we've got this downtrend setting up here, and what we want to watch for is this crypto, and you could just start to see it wiggling out the top here. And what we've seen here is the PPO came up, bounced off its signal line, and looks like it wants to go higher. So all of this lines up to me to be a really nice chart. I could draw some trend lines under here and that kind of thing. You get the picture. There's an opportunity for the momentum to actually be changing on crypto. And I think it's helped by the fact that the other parts of the market are starting to be risk on, the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ and that kind of thing. So we have, here's Binance as an example. And this chart ran up huge, and then it's just been so tapered, it's really hard to see anything. I do like the fact that the downtrend is broken here now. It just kind of wandered sideways, so there's no real price action here yet. But again, when your PPO starts to go above zero, that's pretty nice. And if this could start to trend higher, that would be something I would look at. Let's just change the length of the chart for a little bit and just see if that helps us see a little bit more clarity on here. We'll just try and get rid of that big spike at the beginning. So, pretty much a downtrend since November, really, when the NASDAQ topped out and coming down here. And if this chart could finally start to break out, that might be something more meaningful for us and give us a chance to really start investing in. I just want to use the technicals again. I don't want to get caught in this story because I'm definitely not going to be the first guy in the room to figure out all of the things going on around all of these cryptos. But the one thing that I'm starting to notice again is that these charts are changing tone from being very negative to starting to break out to the bullish side. And I think it's a pretty important week to start to talk about it as all of these charts change. So I have 150 of them. You could go through and do your analysis on all of them. Maybe it's Litecoin or some other coin that's dashing to the upside. Just take a look at the charts generally. If you're seeing big downtrends, does it look like these trends are starting to change? And I would say the 2022 trend looks like it could change right here, right now. You've already got the downtrend and momentum starting to change. These are clues to me that things are starting to improve and might give us the ability to time a Bitcoin entry, especially into something so very volatile. These things move at the speed of light. That's a joke because we're on Litecoin. But anyway, as they start to take off, hopefully there's something there for you if you want to trade them. I strongly recommend not finding a large portion of your account for that, but rather a whisper of your account because sleeping through the volatility can be a little bit extreme. From here in the markets, let's just stay focused on the price action around the indexes. I think that's where we're going to make the most. For those that are interested in the presentation I did, what the presentation was about was trying to talk about how the market makes its low and how we're using different tools to try and define them. And I'm using things called the Schnell strength indexes. But it was this low back here in September that we started to watch, and we were waiting for some price movement to kind of kick this up for us and get us involved. And I think we've got a pretty good signal so far. It's run all the way up to the top of the range, and now we'd like it to stay up here for a month. That would be really nice and give us a chance to make a solid run on some returns on investment. If you have other questions for me, you could send them to info@ospreystrategic.org. But I would encourage you right now to really think about trying not to be too negative. One of the charts that I was interested in, JP Morgan getting back to the 200-day moving average, and the other one is the Bombay Stock Exchange. And this chart is literally very close to breaking out to new all-time highs. Had a pullback on the week Shanghai chart. But some of the charts worldwide are having the same sort of trend break that we're seeing on Bitcoin in terms of momentum and some of the other US charts. So if they're going to start to be able to surge higher, I think that could be a meaningful turn. With that, thanks for taking the time to join me on Market Buzz. Market Buzz airs Wednesday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time, and you can also see the recording on StockCharts TV YouTube page. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week. Bye-bye.
Hey, Grayson Rose here with StockCharts. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, consider giving it a like down below, maybe leave us a comment, and if you're new to the channel, you can subscribe at the link up above. We're going to bring you daily content from an incredible collection of technical analysts and financial experts.